Hello Ken, hello Jonathan, Dino here from sunny London, or at least it was until the sun went down, but it was sunny today, which is good for us. Day one of Project 3 Count, a little bit of progress. Thank you for the call late last week. I'm taking the guide timings, got a few tweaks here and there, but broadly speaking, I'm using 75 minutes, and 90 minutes as the goal. Coffee break, there'll be some time to get everybody sat at their seats. So I'm just, let's not forget that will happen. Usually it's where time just eats away and we end up half an hour over time, but that will happen. I'm assuming there'll be something like a partner and a couple of founders per table, or two partners, two founders, or one founder, two partners, something like that. But there'll be sort of 3 or 4 people at a table, broadly speaking, like this. Cards plus a little box for their cards, and I'll come on to that rather than just put the cards in a big box after each presentation. Little bit of guff at the beginning. There'll be some sort of, hey, here are the rules, here's the format. And then we go into this iterative. There will be 5 teams who will present this morning, and there'll be 5 teams in the afternoon bit. But exactly the same format. So what there will be is Team 1, and Team 1 will know beforehand that they are Team 1. Each one of the teams will know in what order they come, so there's going to be no sort of surprises, and nobody can sort of fumble about. They're ready when they need to be. They are pre-briefed, like we need to brief them kind of now, to say you will get 10 minutes. Can you, in your walkout Wednesdays, prepare yourselves for a 10-minute talk when you do this Project 3 Count, a big get-together? 10 minutes. 10 minutes is really important. If you do it as 15, the whole day will go out. So please try and keep it to 10 minutes. All of that sort of stuff. So really sort of impress on them. It becomes a bit of a game. We could even, and I've done this before, everybody who gets 10 seconds under your 10 minutes gets a point. Everybody gets 10 seconds over gets minus a point, and whoever gets the most points actually wins a prize. You could do all sorts of stuff, but essentially we've just got to impress on them. 10 minutes, please, per presentation. Just give your best shot in 10 minutes, and I'll be sitting there with a clock in the background and squeezing a chicken and all that sort of stuff. They fill out their cards, and their cards, broadly speaking, look the same as before. I've added a few things to it. So who is the card to? Who are you listening to, essentially? And who would you actually, maybe it's the founder or the partner, who do you want to speak to? Who are you? Do you want to out yourself, or is it just anonymous feedback? What's the trigger? Is like, I've got a build or a connection, or I think we should talk. I actually want to talk to you about something rather than just a graciously given word of wisdom. What is the thing down here? So that's great. And also I want them to then say, actually, this is scalding hot. This is amazing. This is a 10, right? Okay, put a 10, or just go, look, take it or leave it. It's a sort of a 5 or a 6, but it's not that important. However, the 2 really important things are, what number have you given it, and do you want to talk to them? So those will be slightly designed different to be connected, because we'll use those later and I'll explain that. However, they're doing these cards, they're just ticking a few boxes here and there and writing their comments, and they're keeping their cards in front of them. So those little boxes in front of them, they might be listening to somebody, they write a card, they put it in a little box in front of them, grab another card, write another card, put it in the box in front of them. So as I say, what we're listening for is potential conversations and a sense of priority to those cards as well. So that's cool. There could be a notepad on the paper, just notes to themselves as well, but these are the calling cards to other people. There's probably going to be, I don't know, 2 minutes of handover. Thank you very much. Great. If you could all put your cards in your box, get ready for the next one. Are you ready? Yes. All that stuff. So there will be 2 minutes of handover, which is why 75 minutes for 5 people, assuming 15 minutes, is exactly 75 minutes, but that's just not how that works. There will be handover. There needs to be a briefing at the beginning of it, etc., etc. There will be people that waffle on. However, we do that 5 times. After each one, people keep their cards, they put them in a little box in front of them. Their little stack of cards gets bigger and bigger, a little bit like an out tray sort of thing, or an inbox, whichever. However, that's all good. Right at the end of that, if there is any time, we can do a little thing that said, hey, what was the most interesting things? Anybody got any really interesting things? Wave the card, or what's the most interesting card that you wrote? We might be able to get through 5 of those or something like that. It depends, but basically all we're saying is the end of the session is done. Your cards are really important. Keep them safe. Go and have some lunch, and we'll come back and we'll hear from the rest of the 5. So we'll then hear second session, team 1, team 2, team 3, exactly the same. The intro will be slightly shorter, obviously, because it will just be, you've already done this in the morning, let's crack on. So everybody does the same thing, more cards go into the thing, that's all great. And then right at the end of that, if we do have a chance to have the most interesting, like there will be another session coming up, we're just going to have a quick break, but really interesting, any more interesting things come out, and then we'll then say, right, okay, that was the last of them. What we're going to do in the next session, in whatever it is, half an hour or so, is we're going to start opening it up. You've all listened and you've absorbed. Now, what are the little wasps in your head? What are those questions that you've got that are really interesting, you really want to ask? So that's all cool. So we'll do that. That's probably going to be bang on the money. We might be able to squeeze in a session which will be filtering your cards, but obviously not for now. They go away for break, half an hour or so. And then they come back, and this is the 90-minute session, which is why I think we'll put in the extra bits and bobs into here. Bit of an intro, welcome back. This morning was really, really interesting. You've heard from 10 people. Hopefully you've had a lot of thoughts, lots of calling cards have been generated. That box in front of you is now full. Now what I want you to do is I want you to think about the 3 questions. Use your calling cards if you really want to. For instance, you could go through and that number in the top corner, the priority number, look for the high ones. Maybe you want to put them all out on the table in front of you, find out what the really interesting ones are, and do those generate questions? So if you could ask a question to clarify something, maybe you heard something you just want to find out a bit more about, what would be those questions? Have a question 1, have a question 2, and a question 3. So have a few in your background. Just put them on the table. They might change when you start hearing people talk, but at least you've got something to start with. So that's what you do. So who's the question to, and what is the question you want to ask? Just a little bit of a session, just think about some really good questions you want to ask, rather than just off the cuff. And then what we do is we do this Q&A, and I'd love to have this sort of card, again, another printed thing, but I think it'd be interesting, because what I'm trying to balance here is what you don't want is a load of people in a room, 40 people potentially in a room, all listening to a couple of people who just keep monologuing or keep asking the same question, or potentially everybody has to listen to a relatively banal question that is very specific, very important to 2 people, but the rest of the people are just like, yeah, it's cool, we know about this. So I'm just trying to balance that. So the way I think we can do that is if everybody in the room has one of these cards, it looks a bit like this, and what you can do is you can say, I want everybody to have a chance to speak. However, you can also ask 2 or 3 questions if you want, but you shouldn't really monologue and hog the questions. So if you hold up your card and go, I've got a question, like, have you got a question right now? And people will hold up, they think, yep, I've got a question. Not everybody will have a question, by the way. So somebody might have a burning question, they hold up their card, and we can then say, is it a 10 question or is it a 5 question? Works pretty well in a room where people go, no, it's like a 7. Okay, but I've got a 10. Okay, go for your 10. Great. They hold up their card, and they say, this is my first question. They rip it in half, basically. They've used it. And all they're then left with is a second and a third question if they want to use it later down the line. But it gives us a way of saying if somebody's still got their first question aloft and somebody's got a third question, a little stub of a third question, we know we go for the first question because they've not had an opportunity yet. Just an interesting way of making sure everybody gets a chance to ask one good question in the room, without being too sort of officious about it. However, the way this works is we then say something like 3 minutes per person. So once we've done a little bit of briefing at the beginning and everybody's got 3 minutes, 3 minutes per person for 20 people, or for 20 questions at least, is about an hour. So we've got some time either side of that hour. If you've got 90 minutes, we've got half an hour either side. It's up to us. 2 minutes each question, we'll get more. 4 minutes each question, we'll get less. Obviously 70 minutes, we'll get even more, etc, etc. However, it's a pretty simple format, to be honest. All they do is they say, I've got a question. We then go, whose question's more important? That one over there, great. Off you go, you do your question. These questions and the answers in the room might elicit some more cards. You might go, oh, that was interesting. Yeah, I've got an interesting thing. The thing that they just said, I've got a thing I'd like to talk to them about that. Again, you keep the cards in the box in front of you, you put them in the box, you give them a priority order, whether you want to talk to them or it's just a thing, that's fine. So then what we'll do is we'll then say, great, Q&A has now finished. However many questions we got is all good. Maybe you do the whole one last question thing just to make sure everybody feels that it's been an end cap. We'll then brief day 2. So day 2 is going to really be about having like a speed dating session where people get to have some sit down time. If you've ever been to a school parents evening, you get your quality time with your teacher. That's what it's going to be. So tonight we're going to do some spreadsheeting to make sure everybody gets the opportunity to speak to the people they need to speak to. So Now that you've got all your cards, what I want you to do is have a look through your cards. Anyone that has got that little box that's ticked that says, I'd like to speak to this person, filter all those out onto one side, go through them and put them in an order. Probably use the number in the top corner, will be your best bet. But basically, with those two things, with your I'd like to speak to them and here's the priority, lay them all out, and I'm going to give you 3 stickers. You've got, or 4 maybe, but gold, silver, bronze. Anybody that is my gold conversation, we will guarantee that you have that conversation tomorrow. A silver and a bronze are less likely in that order, and there might be a wild card just in case there's some mathematical thing that we need to do, which will be like a pink sticker or something, rainbow sticker. However, what you do is you go, right, of all the cards I've got, these ones are the ones I'd like to have conversations about, in which case this one's my gold conversation, my silver and my bronze. You then put those separately, but you keep all your conversation cards, or actually no, you put them all in a box basically. We need them, so it doesn't really matter whether you put them separately, but basically leave them on the table. Everybody goes to dinner, that's great. Meanwhile, in the background, we've got all the cards. We empty them all out. We then filter them to, because we've got little checklists along the top, who's it to. So we put each one of the, essentially, this is going to table 1 tomorrow, this is going to table 2 tomorrow. And anything with a star on it, we then put into a spreadsheet. So we say somebody from PGA wants to speak to this person, somebody from table 7 wants to speak to this person. We just start filling out the spreadsheet to make sure round 1, everybody gets to speak to who they want to. If they might have to go into round 2 to make sure that happens, that's fine. In round 2, everybody's then got their silver choices, and round 3 is their bronze choices. However many rounds we've possibly got, everybody will get a chance to speak to everybody. So that should be cool. And then from that, I haven't sort of super sorted out how that happens, but basically what you then do is after they've sorted their cards out, they just leave for dinner. I've seen that happens. Everybody gives a round of applause and they go. When we're then going to talk about, I'll send you a separate one about day 2, but essentially that's at the end of day 1. So we've now got all the cards, we know who wants to speak to who, we know a priority order of whether it's gold, silver, bronze, and also just in case we've got a number at the top just in case as well. So the things I need to talk to you about for day 1 are, does that card sound like a cool thing? Can we get that printed? Here's a fledgling card layout. Obviously this is not the design, that will be much better than this. However, as you can see, who do I want to send it to? Who am I? Simplified that, like I've just got a connection or a build, words of wisdom, or I'd like to talk to you. So if somebody ticks this box, that's really interesting. That's what we'll be looking at. Likewise, the sticker that they put on it. So we need some bronze, silver, gold stickers, and they can stick that in his corner, do whatever they want to do. So when we're looking at it that evening, if something's got a, we should talk to somebody, I've got a gold sticker on it, great, that goes in our spreadsheet day 1. We then just come up with a format that says for every person, they will have a rotation. They will have rotation 1. Okay, Bob, you're going to be on table 2 speaking to Christine. Okay, for round 3, it's going to be Sven, and you're going to be on table 7 talking to Lanka or something like that, whatever. So that's how that'll work. So the 2 questions I've got, I've not got a huge problem with these. There's a bit of theatre involved in this card. We don't need it, quite frankly. We can just get people to hold up their hands. Who's got a question? Okay, can you hold up fingers to then say how important you think your question is at this point? And if people start saying 10, you go, right, you 3 have got 10, round 2, is it really a 10 or is it a 5? They go, oh, it's actually a 7. You can do that sort of thing. Can we keep the teams to 10 minutes for their presentations? If it's not, then we need to add more time, because there's just no, in 75 minutes you can't get through 15-minute presentations with no crossover and no waffling. It just won't happen basically. So if we can keep them to 10 minutes, it gives us that little sort of, not only the 5 minutes in between to give 2 minutes of handover, but we can pull all that into the time at the beginning to brief them, and also we need some time at the end to maybe just say what was the most interesting thing as well. So I think 10 minutes is pretty much what we've got. If we can't do 10 minutes and you really, really want to have 15 minutes, and you can guarantee they won't go over 15 minutes, which I doubt it, then those morning sessions of 75 minutes just aren't going to fit. So we're going to have to then figure out another way of doing that. Can we have more time, maybe 90 minutes? Even that only gives you another 15 minutes of fluff. However, that's where we're at. Hopefully that's useful. Really, if I'm going to give you an overview, it's a bit of a brief at the beginning. Welcome to the room. Explain what all the cards do. Let's just have loads of presentations, and by the way, fill out your cards. And then let's have a load more presentations. Fill out your cards, and maybe a little bit of an end cap to that, but you don't need to do anything else. And then in the next session, it's like, well, take those cards and let's just have a bit more of an open conversation. So this is all about interact and explore assumptions to clarify potential opportunities. That's what we want people to do there. And at the end of the day, we end up with a bunch of cards that we can then try and format the next day's speed dating. There you go. Hopefully that's useful. As ever, let me know. Speak to you soon.